Okay. Next item of business was the council president's salary recommendations. What we're here to discuss is council president and council member recommendations. Is that correct?
Correct, Chair. So let's just back up so we're all on the same page as to what has happened. The commission made its recommendations for all city elected officials at the September meeting. After that meeting, the city attorney's office interpreted the city charter and the intention of the original charter commission that approved the language creating this commission to indicate that only the base salary could be increased for elected officials only in the first year of the 4-year cycle, and that the other years had to just be limited to a cost of living adjustment. So knowing that the commission had staggered its base increase over the 4-year period for council president and for council members, we asked the commission if they wanted to reconvene to reconsider their recommendation, or if they wanted to simply say a 10% increase in the first year, which is what we had agreed to at the September meeting, and everyone asked to reconvene. So that's what has brought us here today. We are only taking up council president and council member salaries. The others are recommendations that can move forward.
So from the minutes I see, and Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. From the minutes I see, what we in effect proposed was a total of 25% over the 4-year period that came under our consideration. And the question now is trying to set a specific number that will carry through that period of time.
So I think that, Mr. Chairman, I think that the task before the commission at this point is to determine, do you want to do the 25% increase to base salary beginning January 1st of 2022, or do you want to pick a different percentage increase for the base salary and rely on the COLA for the next 3 years to bring that salary up?
Mr. Chair, my thought was that we would try to obviously comply with the requirement that we don't have staggered increases, that we would pick a number that's something less than 25% for 2022, but a number that's higher than 10 that would be somewhat of a equivalent to what we had recommended at our last meeting, if that makes sense, so that we could perhaps make that increase something closer to, I'd say, between 15 and 20%. Somebody's going to have to maybe with their computer figure out what number we would increase it to that would come out in effect comparable to what we were before.
So at 15%, it looks like that would take our council president to 94. Is that right? At 15. And I'm just making sure I'm reading the chart correctly. And the council members then would be at 71,488. And then there would be COLA addition added to that number in the subsequent 3 years, if at 15%.
Right, so if the commission decided to recommend 15% increase to the base salary beginning January 1st of 2022, based on some assumptions and estimations on the COLA, by the end of the 4-year term, the council president would be making almost $90,000, and a council member would be making a little less than $75,000.
Okay, let's start with the 15%. Anyone want to discuss a position for or against the 15% and whether or not we should consider beyond? I agree, I don't think we should come much below, but I'm open to discussion on that issue as well.
I think I'm in agreement with that thought as well, that we not go lower than that. I think our overall intent and the reason we were able to think about 25 would be easing the impact and the optics of such a large increase in that first year. Plus, we will have additional council members. My initial thought before we did the staggered approach was somewhere in the neighborhood of 15%. I was also thinking, kind of leaning towards 20, just looking at some cities with similar population size, and councils like Cleveland is currently, they're at 80,000 is their salary. Denver and Austin, also significantly higher salaries than our council currently gets. And, you know, we know the number of constituents that each council member in Columbus represents. So I saw it as, and I think we've agreed that we have an opportunity and that a catch-up is needed for our council members. But the only reason I'm a little hesitant to go up to 20% for that first year is also considering that we will have 2 new council members and staff, and keeping in mind the city's budget. But I would be in favor of a 15%, at least 15% increase for both council president and council members. And then with the COLA, we've selected to be added on for each year through this term.
Add something else.
Please.
So, you know, I was thinking about this, and my one hesitation about, you know, I think all along in this process that the COLA really is so variable, and we don't know what it'll be. And I think our focus initially was we want to ensure that there is an increase, increase the amount that we feel is in line with, as Diana mentioned, these other cities, and that we're competitive in what this is, this pay compensation is like. With that in mind, I was leaning more towards the 20%, simply because of the variability of that COLA and not knowing exactly where that will be, where that will land. And so I guess I would rather be more aggressive, if you will, in terms of where we start, so that there is it has the potential to even out to where we really want it to land. So that was why I was thinking more towards 20%. Now, granted, I'm not opposed to 15%, but I think that 20% is, to me, the more favorable option I would recommend.
Okay, this is just as a matter of fact, a matter of statement to be added to the considerations that have been articulated. At 15%, the 4-year percentage change would be 20%. The salary adjustment would move up. We are anticipating with COLA would actually be a 20% from the number we set. At 20%, it goes to 25%. Do you understand what I'm saying, Joe?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
okay.
assuming that the
So
COLA
I just want that
is-
to be part of how we
Right.
arrive at our number, that we recognize.
Okay.
Setting it at 15% for 2022, by projection, we believe at the end of the 4-year cycle, it would be, it's a 20% raise from the 2022 salary. Did I say that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And what that does is it figures in that 1.48% cost of living adjustment per year, and we simply, it was requested, and so what we did is we compounded it, and after that period of time, that's what it ends up being.
Okay.
Again, to our best estimate, the 1.48%.
To move the discussion along, the difference between 15%, 20%, 17, would be 17, the middle distance is 17.5%. Although we don't see that on our chart, I don't think anything would be wrong with that, because it would set an established number. But does that make us closer to arriving where we need to be? That would be an average of 22% over the 4-year period.
I'm not opposed to coming up to somewhere in between what we've recommended if, if we agree, and maybe if Joel has some thoughts on where that puts us, what he'd be comfortable with as well. But as initial matter, I don't know, I would be in favor of that increase.
So the only, I'm going to share some economics that I just recently learned. The city has grown, and available jobs have grown. But the available jobs the population of the city has grown, as well as jobs. But the jobs are not livable wage jobs, so that we are facing an issue where public support is spread over a larger population of people. Am I making sense here? This came out of the public policy, what is there? Public policy surveys or studies, and at OSU, the Kirwan Institute. So that has budgetary implications, right? More people, less tax, the equivalent amount of tax not being collected. And our biggest challenge, in my opinion, is trying to project what a budget would look like. I mean, I'm very comfortable going as high as we can, but I pull back a little bit because of that unknown. And we're stretching out 8 years, almost, so I'm hopeful that this trend doesn't continue, but I think that's a fact we have to take into account. In any event, I'm good with any number.
Well, I'm agreeable too. I would rather err on slightly higher for the following reasons. First of all, 7 years from now, 77,958, 78,000. I don't think it's going to, at least it doesn't, to me, sound like a huge number 7 years from now. Recognizing that when we've been using COLA and it's 1.48, and who knows what it will be, but I think your contracts that we're seeing today with schools, with transportation coda and whatever, I think most of them are more than 1.48. Most of them are 3%. It's, I think, pretty standard. And we end up, if we go with the 20%, which is a big jump, but that's for 22, we're ending up with where we were at our last meeting, right? And so at 25. So the only difference is we've really improved the salary to the extent that they're getting the 22, 3, and 4 higher than they would have under a step up. But we're ending it at the same place. And I just think it's better to end it there than to end it at a lower number. Then I think we're really setting it behind going forward after 2025. So that's a long way of saying I'll be happy to do whatever you guys want, but I would not object, and I think Diana had mentioned 20.
20%.
I'm good with 20.
Can I have a motion at 20%
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
for council president and council members?
Correct.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Joel, any further comment?
No, thank you.
Everybody comfortable? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone?
Aye.
No one opposed?
Clarify, was that for both positions?
Both positions.
So, just so I'm clear, Mr. Chairman, that's a 20% increase in the base salary for council president in.
25%.
Twen-
No,
20%.
20%, I'm sorry.
20% increase
Yes.
in the base salary beginning January 1st of 2022, with a COLA each year after that, and the same thing for council member, correct?
Right.
That is correct.
Anything further?
For me? Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
Once again, let me just thank the commission members on behalf of city council, on behalf of Mayor Genther, on behalf of all of us as staff, for your service, and also for reconvening to take care of this matter well past the time that we thought we would be done. So I do appreciate your time. Mr. Rancier, please give your wife our congratulations. And we will be in touch soon. I hope to have a draft report to all of you tomorrow, so that you can look it over. The council president is meeting with Chair Rancier on Monday, and at that point, we will then give the report and recommendations to all of council members and to the mayor, the city attorney, and the city auditor so that they can see it, and council will take up legislation before the end of this calendar year. So,
May we return the thanks to all of you for all the behind-the-scenes work you did for us.
This
Yes.
would have been a lot more difficult, I think, for the five of us, had it not been for someone putting all this information together, and
great.
I agree.
Thank
And I
you.
will also state to the council president when I meet with him.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Later, Joel.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll be live tomorrow.